There are 16,800 magazines in this country. But only one calls itself the in-flight magazine of Air Force One. And that's the thrill of working at the New Republic. This kid, he hacked his way into a company called Juke Micronics and posted the salary of every Juke employee on Juke's website, saying the big bad bionic boy has been here, baby. I want a Miata. I want a trip to Disney World.
It's funny.
Before Jason Blair, there was Stephen Glass. 5 years ago, Glass's career in journalism fell apart when his bosses found out that most of his stories were too good to be true. Ironically enough, it's time to send in the truth.
Welcome to Hannity, and this is a Fox News alert. NBC News has suspended Brian Williams.
Is Brian Williams.
Personal story segment tonight, NBC News anchorman Brian Williams.
Is that Brian Williams?
Well, we begin as NBC News anchor Brian Williams has publicly apologized for making a mistake when recalling a very dramatic story in which he was supposedly shot down while flying in a Chinook helicopter.
A quick recap in case you're under 70 and don't religiously turn on the network news every night at 6:30. Demo slam! In 2003, Brian Williams gave this original report from Iraq.
We asked the U.S. Army to take us on an air mission with them. The Chinook ahead of us was almost blown out of the sky. That hole was made by a rocket-propelled grenade, or RPG.
Oh. But in 2013 on Letterman, it became...
2 of our 4 helicopters were hit by ground fire, including the one I was in.
No kidding.
RPG and AK-47.
No, kidding. So in 2015, as he returned the story to a news format on his show, he stuck with the more, shall we say, interesting workshopped version.
The story actually started with a terrible moment a dozen years back during the invasion of Iraq, when the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG.
See, I see the problem. We got us a case here of infotainment confusion syndrome. It occurs when the celebrity cortex gets its wires crossed with the medulla oblongata.
We will take you through the evidence step by step.
The pilot of Brian Williams' helicopter will join us.
We will be hearing from 2 pilots.
You have a map tonight. Tell us what we're seeing here.
Brian Williams did an interview with Stars and Stripes.
I talked to a soldier last night.
Let's talk about this now with our media experts.
Our media panel is here.
What does this mean for the industry?
Did he lie? How bad is the damage to his credibility?
The media is on it! Now, this may seem like overkill, but for me, no, it's not overkill because I am happy. Finally, someone is being held to account for misleading America about the Iraq War. Finally. Now, it might not necessarily be the first person you'd want held accountable on that list. But never again will Brian Williams mislead this great nation about being shot at in a war we probably wouldn't have ended up in if the media had applied this level of scrutiny to the actual war.
An atheist couple wants to remove the phrase "under God," claiming the words violate students' rights.
And that if these people really don't like it, they don't have to live here.
Yeah, that's a good point. But does anybody know whether this "under God" was added to the pledge, or was it part of it? It was?
It was added. It doesn't matter, though.
You evoke sympathy with the 9/11 families.
That's a bunch of crap.
So
I've done more for the 9/11 families, by their own admission. I've done more for them than you will ever hope to do.
Okay.
So you keep your mouth shut when you sit me exploiting those people.
You're
I
not
don't.
representing
And I never represent you. You know why?
Why?
Because you have a warped view of this world and a warped view of this country.
Well, explain that. Let me give you an example.
No, I'm not going to debate this with you.
Well, let me give you an example of parallel experiences.
No,
on September 14th.
Here's the record.
Here's the record.
Okay. right? You didn't support the action against Afghanistan to remove the Taliban. You were against it.
Why would I want to brutalize and further punish the people in Afghanistan?
Who killed your father?
The people in Afghanistan didn't kill my father.
Sure they did. The Al-Qaeda people were trained there.
The Al-Qaeda people? What about the Afghanistan?
See, I'm more angry about it than you are.
So what about George Bush?
What about George Bush? He had nothing to do with it.
The director, senior, as director.
He had nothing to do with it.
So the people that trained 100,000 mujahideen who were extremists.
I hope your mom isn't watching this. I hope your mother is not, because you. That's it. I'm not going to say anymore.
Okay.
In respect for your father.
September 14th. Do you want to know what I was doing?
Shut up.
Oh, please don't tell me to shut up.
In respect for your father, who was a Port Authority worker, a fine American, who got killed unnecessarily by barbarians.
By radical extremists trained by this government.
Respect
not
for
the
him,
people of America,
I'm not
the people, the ruling class, the small minority.
Cut his mic. I'm not going to dress you down anymore, out of respect for your father. We'll be back in a moment with more of the fact.
We're done?
Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity. The American writer Alice Walker wrote this about her southern relatives who had moved to the north, and she introduced them to a book about the southern life that they had left behind. They sat around reading the book themselves, listening to me read the book, and a kind of paradise was regained. I would like to end with this thought, that when we reject the single story, when we realize that there is never a single story about any place, we regain a kind of paradise.